Hi everyone, Sherry here, and I wanted to share with you a quick card that I made using some techniques to basically create an abstract background, if you will. So here I'm just doing a little bit of ink smooshing. Everybody, I'm sure, does ink smooshing. And I'm using some picked raspberry. I just put a little bit of ink on a piece of acetate and then squirted it with some water and then smushed it on my card. And here I'm using a little bit of squeezed lemonade. Now, we'll tell you that it is very important to dry between layers. These colors will reactivate with water, and if you don't give it a little bit of drying time, then you will create mud. So this last color that I've used is Twisted Citron. And now I'm going to dry this one more time. And I wanted to create a very light background behind the ink smooshing. So I'm using the You Matter background stamp, and I'm using some Barely Beige ink from Simon Says Stamp. And I will tell you ahead of time, you will not be able to see this on camera, but this is the look that I was actually trying to achieve. So I'm just laying the paper down on the stamp, and I am pressing in various areas, not trying to press the entire piece onto the stamp. So what I'm going to be doing now is I'm going to go look in my stash and find a few more stamp sets. I knew I wanted to use this dragonfly, but I've just felt like there was something missing. So I went into my stash and found a few stamps that are good for creating these type of backgrounds. This one just happens to be one that has a few rows of circles that look like some kind of typeset or what have you. And I started with the Twisted Citron and then decided I didn't think it was going to be dark enough. So I picked up some Gumdrop Green from My Favorite Things, and then I'm just going to dab off a little bit. And I'm going to put that over to the left side of my panel. Stamp it one more time. Clean my stamp, and now I'm going to go in with some Ripe Raspberry from MFT. And again, I'm just dabbing off a little bit so it won't be so strong. So I like that look, and I will go ahead and clean this stamp off with my stamp chamois. And then I'm going to bring in another larger stamp, which I will be using some daffodil ink from MFT to stamp this image. And this is just to add a little bit more yellow and interest into my background. Going to ink up this stamp with the daffodil ink. And I had a little felt fuzzy come off that ink pad. Get that out of the way. Again, I'm dabbing off a little bit of the yellow, and then I am stamping that down. And I did go back and stamp that again with just a little bit more yellow, just to get a little bit more color. Try to tie it in with the yellow from the ink smooshing. And now I'm going to remove my panel from the Misty, and I am going to hit it with my heat tool. I want to make sure that this is completely dry before I do my embossing. So I'm going to test it. I'm going to sprinkle a little bit of the white embossing powder on it. First, going to treat it with my powder tool. Sprinkle on some embossing powder. And I'm doing this just to make sure that everything's dry and I'm not going to get any embossing powder to stick where I don't want it. I'm going to pop my panel back in my Misty, and then I'm going to take this dragonfly stamp and get it positioned where I want to stamp him. This is another one of those stamps that I saw and I just had to have it. I collect dragonfly stamps. The critters that I love the most are dragonflies and kitties, so this just fit the bill. I inked that up with some Simon Says Stamp clear sticky ink. And now I will put on my embossing powder. Clean my stamp first and then put on my embossing powder. And then heat set it. I just love this bright white against all those bright fun colors in the background. And I never get tired of watching this happen. And heat the back just to try to help with some of the warping that happens when you put a lot of water and heat to your cardstock. And now I'm going to use the other portion of the You Matter stamp set, and I'm going to create my sentiment, and it's going to read, "You are pretty amazing." And at first I thought I wanted it down in the lower right hand corner, but I changed my mind, and again I'm putting it back in my MISTI to help me get things lined up. And I ended up putting the word "you" up top and the rest of the sentiment at the bottom. And I'm going to be stamping this with some VersaFine Onyx Black ink. And using my MISTI will allow me to stamp it again if needed. This is watercolor paper, so it does have some ridges and texture. And I do see a little spot there on the O in the word "you" that was giving me a fit. So stamping it again is very easy with the MISTI. No guessing. And now I am taking this strip of black and white diagonal stripe paper. This is from My Favorite Things Neutrals pack. And I'm going to put a strip of that along the left side of my panel. And I did have a little bit of glue seepage, but it's right there in the area that I'm going to cut off. But I'm going to clean that up and then just take my scissors and snip off that piece there at the top. And I have a standard 4.25 by 5.5 card base. It's top folding. And I'm going to use some foam tape. I like to use the foam tape on the watercolor paper, especially if it's buckled, because I find that I can pretty much get it straightened out. If I start applying the tape and start the pressure at the one side and push the tape down to the other side as I go along. I hope that made sense to you guys. I'm Southern and I'm slow and I don't always explain things so well, but I'll give it a good shot. All right, so I'm going to remove the release paper from the foam tape, and then I'm going to place that down on my card base, which is 4.25 by 5.5 top fold. And then just to add a little bit more to my card, I pulled out some sequins. I don't remember the color name of these. I do remember they are from Darice, and they're holographic, but they're also white. They're not clear. And I have found in numerous projects that these really work well when you have something that has some pink or purple, something of that nature in your background. So I'm going to apply a few of these around the U and a couple around the sentiment at the bottom. And this is pretty much going to sum it up for my card today. I thank you for joining me. As always, the supplies are listed down below in the description if you're interested. And I hope you have a great day. Thanks again, and I will talk to you again soon. Bye now.